All right, today we're going to be taking a look at how to multiply integers. What do we do if we want to multiply integers? Well, there are a couple steps we can follow. Start just by multiplying the two numbers. So first, just ignore your sign. So if I have a negative 6 times 5, first let's just look at the digits. I have a 6, I have a 5. Basically, we want to look at the absolute values of them. 6 times 5 is what? 6 times 5 is 30. Multiplication, we've been doing that. Now I need to determine what the sign of my answer is going to be. And there's just two simple rules for this. If I have an odd number of negative signs in my factors, or the numbers I'm multiplying, my answer will be negative. If I have an even number of negative signs, my answer will be positive. So if you look here, I have one negative sign, which is odd, so that means my answer should be a negative 30. If they'd been negative 6 times negative 5, that would have been 2. It would have been even, so then it should be positive. So let's look at that and do some examples. So the first thing I would look at here is just multiplying my numbers. So let's ignore our negatives right now. Just look at the digits. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 times 7 is 210. And if you need to do that on the side on a scrap paper, that's fine. Now let's determine what is the sign of my answer here. Well, I have 1, 2, 3 negative signs. 3 is odd. If I have an odd number of negative signs, my answer becomes negative. So my answer is negative 210. It's the same thing over here. First, ignore our signs. Let's just look at the digits. 1 times 6 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. 12 times 4 is 48. Now let's determine what the sign of my answer will be. Let's see. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 4 negative signs, which is even. If I have an even number of negative signs, my answer actually is positive, so it remains a positive 48. And again, remember, we don't need to write the positive sign. If we don't write a sign, we know it's a positive number. So I look at my digits. I've got the 6 and the 9, which is 54. I have one negative sign, which is odd, so it's a negative 54. However, we're not done yet. We now need to take the absolute value of that. How far is negative 54 from 0? Well, it's 54 spaces from 0, so the absolute value is 54. Over here, you'll notice that we have some brackets as well. Just another form of parentheses. Don't let those throw you off. The other thing I did want to draw your attention to, and what you'll notice up here, is traditionally, when you were first learning multiplication, we used a times sign that looked like an X. What we want to do now that we're getting into algebra is we want to not use this anymore. We want to get away from this. Why? Because we start using letters now, or what we call variables, for numbers that we don't know. And we use X a lot. So we don't want to get our X's confused with our time signs. So we're trying to get away from using those. Instead, what you'll notice I'm using are the dots or the parentheses to tell you that we're multiplying. So coming back down here, again, remember, start by looking at our digits. 3 times 8 is 24. Then take a look at how many negative signs I've got. 1, 2. If I have an even number, that means it's positive. So I now have a positive 24 as my answer. Same thing down here. You'll notice there's a negative outside here. It's still all being multiplied. Don't let it throw you off. You're just going to count it when we figure out what our sign is. So look at my digits. I've got a 4 and a 2. 4 and a 2 is 8. So we count our signs. We've got 1, 2, 3 negative signs. That's an odd number, so that means that my answer should be negative 8.